It's not too often I have to remind a good follower of the channel about my background as a journalist and my love of baseball. Ryan Thompson is a dedicated member of our crew here, our what do you call it, our governor family, our podcast family. But he asked me today to do a podcast on Ernie Banks, thinking maybe I didn't know who it was. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been a Cubs follower and fan for almost over 50 years. Because obviously they were in the NL East with the Expos from 69 onward, and I started reading about Ernie Banks in 1969 when the Black Cat showed up in the pennant race that really cursed him against the Mets. So Ryan, like I said, I'm sorry. I was in the comment section. I basically was questioning if you remembered. I've been 41 years doing this. But it's dedicated to him because Ryan is a dedicated fan of all things baseball. And this guy is pretty well one of the best examples of what the best of baseball can be. And on this night of Game 4, where the Dodgers could win the World Series, it's suffice it to say he's one of the best players not to win a World Series. Ernie Banks. Now, Ernie Banks, nicknamed Mr. Cub, and the nickname I prefer, Mr. Sunshine, was an American pro baseball player who started Major League Baseball as a shortstop and first baseman for the Cubs between 53 and 71. Inducted in the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 77, he was named to the Major League Baseball All-Century team in 1999. So imagine this, ladies and gentlemen. He had the talent of Ozzie Smith and the talent of Vladimir Guerrero, but he added severe home run power to it. So today we're not going to talk about his whole career because that would take days, but we're going to talk about how he started in baseball into the Negro Leagues and how the 1950s shaped him and made him Mr. Cub. Now, Banks is regarded as being one of the greatest players of all time. He began taking the field in 1950 with the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro Leagues. He then served the U.S. military for 2 years, played for the Monarchs again, and began his NL career in September 53 when the color barrier was pretty well all but broken. The following year, he was a National League Rookie of the Year runner-up. Beginning in 55, Banks was a National League All-Star for 11 seasons, playing at 13 of the 15 All-Star games held during those years. And of course, there was double All-Star games for those. He was the main attraction for the Cubs in the late 1950s, the NL Most Valuable Player in 58 and 59, and the Cubs' first Gold Glove winner in 1960, and probably the best player in the National League for the period of the 50s into the 60s. Now, in 62, he became a regular first baseman for the Cubs. Between 67 and 71, he was a player coach. In 69, through a Chicago Times fan poll, Cubs fans voted him the greatest Cub ever. In 1970, Banks hit his 500 career home run at Wrigley. He retired from baseball in 71, was a coach for the Cubs in 72, and in 82 was the team's first player to have his uniform number retired. Now, the right-hander also threw right. He was active in the Chicago community during and after his tenure with the Cubs, giving back to many charities. He founded his own charitable organization. He became the first black Ford Motor Company dealer in the States and made an unsuccessful bid for a local political office. In 2013, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his contributions to sports. Now, Banks lived in the LA and Chicago areas before his unfortunate passing on January 23rd, 2015. So like I said, we're going to go over his early career into the 50s, and we might expand it later on, but I wanted to tell the people on the channel who've never heard of this before, this is a true story. Because how he made Major League Baseball and became a sensation is probably one of the greatest good news stories you'll ever hear. Born in Dallas to Eddie and Essie Banks on January 31st, 31, he was the second of 12 children. His father, who had worked in construction and was a warehouse loader for a grocery chain, played baseball for black semi-pro teams in Texas. As a child, he was not very interested in baseball, but preferred swimming, basketball, and football. His father bought him a baseball glove for less than $3 at a five-and-dime store and motivated him with nickels and dimes to play catch. While still in high school, he joined the Dallas Black Giants, a semi-pro baseball team, in 1949. His mother wanted him to be a minister, as one of his grandfathers had made a career on the pulpit. Now, when he graduated from Booker T. Washington High School in 1950, he lettered in basketball, football, and track. Some people say he was good enough to make the NFL. Because Banks School did not have a baseball team, he played fast-pitch softball for a church team during the summer. He was also a member of the Amarillo Colts, a semi-pro baseball squad. History professor Timothy Guilfoyle wrote that Banks' talent for baseball was discovered by Bill Blair, a family friend who scouted for the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro American League. Other sources say Banks was noticed by the great cool Papa Bell of the Monarchs. Whatever reason, he was going to make it no matter what happened. Now, in 1951, he was drafted in the U.S. Army and served in Germany during the Korean War. He also served as a flag bearer in the 45th Anti-Aircraft Artillery Battalion at Fort Bliss, where he played with the Harlem Globetrotters on a part-time basis. In 1953, he was discharged from the Army and joined the Monarchs for the remainder of that season, hitting .347 for the campaign. Banks later said, "Playing for the Kansas City Monarchs was like my school, my learning, my world. It was my whole life." He also hosted a program on 1450 WHFC in the late 1950s. Now, he served till 53, private first class. When he signed with the Cubs in late 53, he made his major league debut on September 17th at the advanced age of 22 and played in 10 games at Wrigley. He was the Cubs' first black player and also became one of several former Negro League players who joined MLB teams without playing in the minor leagues. Larry Moffey and Jonathan Kronstadt wrote that he was just not the crusading type. He was so grateful to be playing baseball for a living, he did not have time to change the world. And if that meant some people call him an Uncle Tom, well, so be it. I read about the early part of Banks' career, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm not saying he was an Uncle Tom, but he was not that type of personality. He basically, the field was his church. And no pun that his parents were very spiritual people, his grandparents. Ernie Banks took the field. It was a religious experience because to the Cubs, he was the savior. Can imagine what the Cubs were like from the 50s into 69 without him. They had him. It was like the only player that meant something to everybody up until Dave Kingman and some other key players showed up in the 70s. Now, during his first game for the Cubs, he received a visit from Jackie Robinson that influenced his quiet presence in baseball. Robinson told Banks, "Ernie, I'm glad to see you up here, so now just listen and learn. For years I didn't talk and learned a lot about people." Later, when Banks felt like becoming more vocal, he discussed the issue with fellow black teammate Billy Williams, who advised him to remain quiet. Williams drew the analogy of fish that are caught once they open their mouths. Banks said, "I kept my mouth shut but tried to make a difference. My whole life I just wanted to make people better." Now, in 1954, Banks' double-play partner during his official rookie season was Gene Baker, the Cubs' second black player. Banks and Baker roomed together on road trips and became the first all-black double-play combination in Major League history. When Steve Bilko played first base, Cubs announcer Bert Wilson referred to the Banks-Baker-Bilko double-play combination as Bingo to Bango to Bilko. Banks hit 19 home runs and finished second to Wally Moon in Rookie of the Year voting. Banks participated in a trend towards lighter baseball bats after he accidentally picked up a teammate's bat and liked it that it was easy to generate bat speed. Now, that was a big part of Banks's draw because he, as we say in softball and baseball in Canada, you got a quick bat, you're gonna fly, and he had a fast bat because he I think it was 33 ounces or 34 ounces. It wasn't that big. Now, in 55, it was a breakout year. He had 44 home runs, had 117 RBIs, and batted .295. He played and was a starting NL shortstop in his first of 13 All-Star games that season. His home run total was a single-size record among shortstops. He also set a 30-year record of 5 single-season Grand Slam home runs. Banks finished third in 55 in the MVP voting behind Roy Campanella and Duke Schneider. The Cubs finished with a 72-81 win-loss record, winning only 29 of 77 road games. In 56, Banks missed 18 games to a hand infection, breaking his run of 424 consecutive games played. He finished the season with 28 home runs, 84 at 5 ribbies, and batted .297. He made the All-Star selection a reserve player, but not about play in the contests. In 57, he finished the season 43-102 with a .285, so very, very good numbers. In 58 and 59, Banks became the first NL player to be awarded back-to-back MVP awards, leading the league in RBIs in both 3 seasons, with 129 and 143 respectively. His 58th season was also the first time an MVP winner was on a below 500 squad. He had a major league leading career best 47 home runs at 58, batted .313, which was third best in the league. The following year, he had .304 with 45 home runs. In 59, the Cubs came the closest to winning season since Banks' arrival, finishing 74 and 80 and not doing well on the road. Now, Banks had a small role also in the usual play on June 30th, 1959, when the St. Louis Cardinals played the Cubs at Wrigley. Sam Musial was at the plate facing Bob Anderson with a count of 3-1. Anderson's next pitch was errant. The ball evaded catcher Sammy Taylor and rolled all the way to the backstop. Umpire Vic Delmore called ball 4, but Anderson and Taylor contended that Musial foul-tipped the ball. Because the ball was still in play and Delmore was embroiled in an argument with Anderson and Taylor, Musial tried to run for second base. Seeing that Musial was running to second, third baseman Alvin Dark ran to the backstop to receive the ball. The ball wound up in the hands of field announcer Pat Piper, but Dark ended up getting back anyway. Absent-mindedly, however, Delmore pulled out a new baseball and gave it to Taylor. When Anderson noticed that Musial was trying for second, he took the new ball from Sammy Taylor and threw it towards Tony Taylor, covering second, and the ball went over Taylor's head in the outfield. At the same time that Anderson threw the new ball towards second base Taylor, Dark threw the original ball to Banks. Musial did not see the throw and it was declared out when the tag was made. Still talked about even, 65 years later. Now, in 1960, before he's moved to first base, and we're going to wrap it up there because we're talking about the shortstop years, he had a Major League and NL leading 41 home runs, had 117 RBIs, and led the NL in games played for the sixth time in 7 years. He was also the first Cubs player to receive an annual NL Gold Glove Award for shortstop. On the eve of the '60 World Series, Joe Reichler, a writer for the AP, reported that the Milwaukee Braves were prepared to pay cash and trade pitchers Joey J., Carlton Willie, and Don Notbart, outfielder Billy Bruton, shortstop Johnny Logan, and first baseman Frank Torrey, in exchange for Banks from the Cubs. Can you imagine Willie Mays and Ernie on the same squad? Now, the later years for him, he was extremely busy with the Chicago Cubs and MLB in the many years. But we've talked about like that era. I think his best decade was the 50s. But this his career highlights. Again, the years with the Cubs, 53-71. 14 All-Star game appearances. The only year he missed out pretty well was 66. 2 L MVPs, 1 Gold Glove, 2 home run crowns, 2 RBI crowns, Chicago Cubs Hall of Fame, Major League All-Century team, and the 16.2% who did not vote him in at the first ballot in 77 should deserve a fucking slap in the face. He only got 83.8% in 77. It should have been close to 100% because other than Jackie Robinson and all the great black iconic players, he was part of them. So, ladies and gentlemen, what does Ernie Banks mean to Cubs fans in 2024? Well, he's the icon. He's the Jean Beliveau of the Montreal Canadiens with the Cubs, and he holds a record with the most games played with no postseason appearances. Because by the time he got in, it was a little bit past his time. So before we wrap this up, I want to go over to the rough stats. Because from the 60s, because Ryan Thompson would want you to look at these stats and say to yourself, what type of decade did he have? There's very few players had a better decade than the 50s. There's comparisons of Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and all the key players. So let's just do a rough. We're talking just a rough look. Now, 1954 onwards, okay? 1944, 28, 43, 47, 45 home runs. 54 onwards, 79 RBIs, 117, 85, 102, 129, 143. Didn't have many stolen bases, but he had an average of caught base on balls and strikeouts pretty well close. Now, the big year for me was 58. He had 81 extra base hits, 23 doubles, 11 triples, 47 RBIs, and those 4 seasons between 1957 and 1960, again, he was averaging 40, 43, 44 home runs a season. Now just tremendous. Now, never broke 200 hits in his career. He batted 313 in that big 58 season. He was always like a 270 to 290 hitter most years. And if you look as a fielder too, ladies and gentlemen, he had a career fielding percentage of all levels in late seasons. This is 1,259 games, Only 80 errors, 994 average, okay, overall. 1,259 games, 994 fielding percentage with only 80 errors. That's tremendous. Now, again, he played from Chicago 1953 to 71, and the biggest emptiness, of course, the Cubs never made the playoffs. Even by the time with expansion, they had a good chance to win the 69 pennant, but like I said, the Black Cat incident. So thanks again to Ryan Thompson for his great requests. Ryan is a better historian when it comes to the 19th century on certain key players. But you see, a Montreal Canadiens fan like I am, we seek out success, and it's not just championships. The comparison, okay, of the era was in the 50s and 60s. Maurice Richard, then Jean Beliveau, Ernie Banks. He was a level of excellence. Everybody knew who Ernie Banks was. He was big in Quebec. He was big across Canada. He was big in the States because Ernie Banks was a gentleman. He played baseball the right way. When he said move to first base, he said, thank you, I'll continue there. But shortstops, hitting a lot of home runs. I mean, Rodriguez and different people. But, I mean, Ernie Banks was such an icon. And the fact was he started Major League Baseball pretty well late because the Negro Leagues, and he played like 5 or 6 years as semi-pro and Negro Leagues before they made the Major League Baseball. And there should be an Ernie Banks Award out there. Major League Baseball should take time, like a Perseverance Award or what they call a dedication to game. You know, like in Canada, we call the ESSO medals most dedicated. He's not only MVP, he was most dedicated to the game. I have never seen Ernie Banks in an interview not to talk well about his opponents, about his teammates. I've never heard a bad word came from him ever. And he had every reason to because he didn't have much to go in Chicago. You know, there wasn't much going on in Chicago. They had no pitching. You know, but when the league expanded, when you had the AL East, the Black Cat got him in '69. But maybe some people believe he'd not say he retired too early. He could have played a couple more years because what Chicago had with Dave Kingman, he built the foundation of that, the hero worship in Chicago. And like I said, they weren't lovable losers. They were good teams, but you just couldn't win on the road. That was their big problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the story of the great Ernie Banks. Thank you, Ryan Thompson again. And by the way, we take requests on a regular basis in the movie category, the TV category, the editorial category, the historical category, true crime, stuff like that. If you have a request, check our archive here. Over 4,000 podcasts. This is getting the 8th year of the channel. We want to get something that's going to be good for you, that's going to draw other people. We're not really doing it for the hits. We're doing it for quality. So whether you like Night Gallery or like the obituaries we do on celebrity players or celebrity actors, we did Terry Garr today. But it's a pleasure to do something on Ernie Banks. I've only done one other column on Ernie Banks, and it was 34 years ago when he showed up at the All-Star game at Wrigley. And I think he threw out the first ball or did something with the opening ceremony. It's 34 years I haven't done a column on Ernie. So Ryan, thank you for giving me an opportunity to bring back 34 years ago. So just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, I've been a journalist for 41 years. I've covered sports for 41 years. I've read over 50,000 books on sports. If I don't know it, I can find something out. There's very few categories I don't know a little about. I can bullshit a little bit through research, but like I said, and my expertise is sometimes the 5th or 6th best player in the team and what he meant to like a hometown hero approach. So thanks for listening, and Mr. Cub, Mr. Sunshine, you always shone your positive light on us. It's an honor that the world had you for as long as it did. And you're definitely Mr. Cub. Thanks for listening. Bye.